begins on June 1st, 2013, terminates on 2013 with the option for the parties to renew for the subsequent 6-month term. This is where the renewal language is. This is different than the previous contract, which was just for an entire $25,000 for a year term, beginning at the first of the year. My understanding is that the board, when they met, and Tom Reeder's here, I believe, still, when they met, they had some concerns about work they might have done for the city of Gardner while not being compensated for it. Basically, we didn't have a contract since the end of 2012. And so my understanding is that they were concerned about beginning the term of this contract on June 1st instead of making it retroactive. One thing that was brought to my attention was that, and this goes back to the first page of the packet on the CAF. If you read the previous contract, and I'll just read it out. I think it's the easiest way to do it. Performance standards. The EDC shall establish a detailed plan of work in which the specific activities to be performed by the EDC staff are delineated. Such plan of work shall specifically address the nature and scope of services to be provided to the city and shall establish performance criteria by which the EDC staff's individual performance will be measured. And this is where the differences are. Such plan of work shall be prepared annually and shall be subject to the approval of the city administrator prior to adoption by the board of directors of the EDC. The city administrator shall be consulted by the board of directors of the EDC in the preparation of performance reviews for EDC staff. Now, if you look at the attached draft, and this is something that was changed within the past 3 months, if you look at the last 2 sentences of that paragraph, such plan of work shall be prepared annually and updated as necessary to reflect new economic development plans and programs created by the EDC or city. The EDC shall provide the city ample opportunity to provide input toward creation of the work plan. So this is something that between myself and the president of the EDC got negotiated out of it, this direct accountability to the city administrator. So when this was presented, or when this was prepared for the last meeting, as a result of the conversation, or excuse me, a result of the feedback from the board, it seems that the city and the board have gotten further apart in their view of this contract. And so I think the matter at hand is whether that gap can be closed. Greater accountability, a more, a 6-month with an option to renew versus a full year, beginning on June 1st instead of beginning retroactively on January 1st. And then this issue of the accountability language that's in paragraph 2.
So I guess from my perspective, and I've been involved in multiple conversations regarding this, and one of the items that we've, I think, consistently come back to is how do we measure the success of the EDC, and how do we measure the value that they provide to Gardner specifically. To me, one of the first steps in doing that is generating some sort of accountability. I know some of this stuff is pretty obscure in that Tom may be, it may be difficult for him to provide some information that's confidential or what have you. So Mike, one of the things that I was hoping once you came on board is that you would be able to kind of bridge that gap between council and the EDC and be able to, as an active participant in that, say, yes, we're getting some value, or no, we're not. For me, it's all been about accountability. It's all been about, with that $25,000 that we're giving the EDC, can we do something better with that internally in regards to economic development versus what we're getting through Southwest Johnson County? And I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I don't know.
I'll try to respond to that if I could. I might. The way the contract is drafted, it wasn't as specific in the earlier version. But the way, in working with Tom, in what Tom and I discussed over the past 3 months, was that a greater accountability would come mainly through a monthly reporting, a written report is provided. The role, the EDC's role in attracting and retaining business, economic development, is different from the city's role in that the city's role is more of a planning role, more of a strategic role in terms of what types of investments could be made in infrastructure and developing a strategic plan. The role of the EDC, the way it's drafted here, is more of a recruiter. They have a greater presence on their website in terms of attraction, that type of thing. One thing that I observed is that there is no strategic plan for Southwest Johnson County, the economic strategic plan. That seems like the missing piece, and you don't necessarily have to call it a strategic plan. You can call it a business plan if you'd like. The key thing is to identify those actions that should take place to accomplish your economic development goals over a 5-year period, and review that annually to see if you're meeting those goals. So it's kind of those two roles. The EDC has one role, city has another role. So this contract, my intention at least, was to try to move the contract more in that direction. But still, the city has to play an important role. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, that does. Thank you.
I do have some comments, but if you want to go ahead.
Well, one of the things that I would mention is that I do know that the city does have a role to play, and I'm not sure that beyond Christy Harrison having a monthly meeting with Tom, and myself, I've sought Tom out on a number of occasions. He's always been available to me. I don't think that we've been interactive with the EDC, and I don't know that I've ever been refused an opportunity to spend time talking about economic development issues with Tom or any member of the board. And I think that, and I don't want to speak for you, Tom, but I think that Tom would welcome questions and concerns and input. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes.
Okay.
I had a couple things. Just one of the pieces that's in the contract is drafted, and one of the, I believe we should go back to the 1st of January when we look at the agreement, because when I voted on the budget for last year, this was part of the budget, and we were committing those dollars for the year of 2013 and $25,000. I consider that to be an agreement already. I understand there weren't contracts in place between the two parties, but that was me voting the affirmative to do that. So I feel we should go back to that. The other piece of this, from the time that this contract was brought forth, this is a contract drafted for someone that works for you, not someone that works with you. And I always have felt that the two groups work hand in hand as a partnership. We aren't the only person that feeds that machine, yet we're drafting a contract in a way that says we are the only one paying you, and this is how you're a slave to that. I think this is a very strict agreement. I don't think it's unfair for us to ask for a level of accountability, but I feel as though we may have gone beyond that, and I can't imagine that's not the same concerns that Tom and the board had when they looked at it. How does this compare? Let me ask Tom, since you're with us tonight, how does this compare to the other agreements that you have in place with the other organizations?
It's very similar. The agreement that was drawn and has been basically in effect and has been renewed each year has been similar. The issues that Mike has talked about this evening, the accountability issue, for example, having the city administrator either sign off on the
Right.
program of work, and we have currently for